I want to quickly ask you about cultural issues because we've got some new polling on this. On the issue of trans issues, polling higher is people are more worried, voters are, about attacks on trans families than they are about trans people competing in sports. When asked about issues involving schools, the top concern you can see here was book banning. Now there's word major donor to the GOP, Peter Thiel, is unhappy and is going to hold his money out because he doesn't like these debates about abortion and trans and bathrooms and all of that. Are you worried that these cultural issues are hurting the GOP?
Well, one, the Democrats are using this word book banning. You're seeing it a lot. You saw it on Biden's launch. That's a lie. There isn't book banning. What Republicans are doing are protecting our children and parental rights and saying 5-year-olds shouldn't be reading sexually explicit material. Ron DeSantis went in front of cameras and read some of these books, and the news stations had to go away because the material was so explicit. But now we know their game plan, right? We can have a conversation about issues, and really what it is about is parents should have a say in what's happening with our kids. And I think most Americans support that, but it's good to know the Democrats' playbook, and we're going to push back on that, especially coming from a Democrat Party that is banning freedom of speech, that is canceling people, that is destroying your life if you don't think with their orthodoxy. This is a Democrat Party who is saying if you think outside of the box of everything we are dictating to you, we will make you lose your job, we will destroy you. So they're banning people. They're banning freedom of speech and freedom of thought. Republicans are protecting children.
If you're wondering what kind of person it would take to lead the Republican Party, it's someone like Ronna McDaniel, who almost impressively can manage to lie with every single word that comes out of her mouth. Now, first off, Ronna McDaniel is saying that it's a lie that Republicans are banning books, which, of course, is in and of itself such a blatant lie that there should practically be another defamation case against Fox for airing it without pushback. Here's a photo from a school district in Texas whose board voted to allow books to be removed from the library that are on a list made by a Republican representative. The list includes books about bullying, racism, human rights, women's rights, black history, and Latino history. It's gotten so bad there that the federal government is now investigating the district. A South Carolina school board filled with newly elected right-wing group members immediately removed their first black superintendent, the district's black lawyer, banned critical race theory, and set up a new committee to consider banning books. And it's not just schools. The teen section in an Indiana public library is now mostly empty after Republicans gained seats on the library's board of trustees. They ordered a review including of Avengers graphic novels and Captain America comics. The review will cost upwards of $300,000, and that is how you really know that Republicans are against wasteful spending. And it's not just books either. It's all forms of media. A Texas school, for example, just canceled their field trip to see a theater performance of James and the Giant Peach because it was claimed to not be age appropriate after a parent complains about the actors playing multiple roles that were both male and female, calling it drag. Because thank God that parent won't let another generation be destroyed in the same way that James and the Giant Peach destroyed my generation. In Florida, a principal was forced to resign by a Republican official because a middle school history class saw a photo of Michelangelo's David statue, which angry conservative parents called pornography. A 522-year-old statue that has nothing to do with sex and is a representation of a literal biblical figure is now apparently too much for middle schoolers to see with their own eyes in a history class. But hey, at least you've got Republicans to push back against cancel culture. Phew. Ronna even complains that Biden's making this a campaign issue by mentioning it in his launch video, which thank God he is. Thank God Democrats are standing up to this insanity by calling it for what it is. And as Fox News' own polling shows, it is deeply unpopular among voters.
Ron DeSantis went in front of cameras and read some of these books, and the news stations had to go away because the material was so explicit. But now we know their game plan, right? We can have a conversation about issues, and really what it is about is parents should have a say in what's happening with our kids. And I think most Americans support that, but it's good to know the Democrats' playbook, and we're going to push back on that.
The fact that she decided to bring up Ron DeSantis, of all people, to explain away how they're actually not banning books is just laughable. Here's what a Florida school looked like because of a new law signed by Ron DeSantis. So what Ron is telling you is that all of those books that were once on those shelves are porn. And then, of course, she'll say that they're not actually banning the books. They're just taking the books out of the libraries for an indefinite period of time, wasting thousands in taxpayer dollars, and suspending their availability to students for potentially forever. Yeah, I can totally see the difference. In fact, here's an image from another Florida school where teachers were told to hide books if they're not going to take them off the shelves or risk 5 years in prison under a Ron DeSantis law. One teacher said the kids began crying and writing letters to the principal saying, "Please don't take my books, please don't do this." In fact, these laws are so ridiculous that one Florida man is trying to point out its absurdity by using their same logic to ban the Bible. He says that if they're going to let parents petition to ban any books that they deem inappropriate, then surely a book that includes references to murder, adultery, sexual immorality, fornication, rape, bestiality, cannibalism, and infanticide should be banned too, right? And I gotta say, this is one of those rare instances where Florida man actually does something right. But the fact that Republicans would object to that claim inevitably tells you everything you need to know. It's not about keeping references to mature topics away from students. It's about banning books that acknowledge realities that don't comport with their own theology or beliefs. It's about banning the existence of LGBT people, of America's history with race, of women's rights, and so much more. Which makes this claim by Ronna McDaniel just the peak of projection.
Especially coming from a Democrat Party that is banning freedom of speech, that is canceling people, that is destroying your life if you don't think with their orthodoxy. This is a Democrat Party who is saying if you think outside of the box of everything we are dictating to you, we will make you lose your job, we will destroy you. So they're banning people. They're banning freedom of speech and freedom of thought. Republicans are protecting children.
Notice how she spews this nonsense without providing a single example to back up her claims. It's just nebulous fear-mongering. I don't know a single person that Joe Biden has destroyed or made lose their job, other than, of course, Ronna's boss, the 34-time indicted felon Donald Trump. But otherwise, Joe Biden's overseen the addition of 12.6 million jobs, so yeah, maybe Ronna might want to opt for a new talking point here. But if Ronna wants to talk about examples of a political party banning things they don't like, I'm happy to oblige. In Kansas, their new anti-transgender bathroom law is so poorly written and so extreme that it defines female as a person who produces ova, or eggs, which would mean that infertile and postmenopausal women can now be banned from using women's bathrooms in the state. So yeah, talk about banning people. Idaho Republicans have passed a bill that would create a new crime called abortion trafficking, which would restrict travel to other states to get an abortion and charge violators with a felony and minimum of 2 to 5 years in prison, because freedom. Idaho Republicans also blocked a bill to make tampons available for students, calling it woke, because clearly periods and feminine hygiene products are only for those coastal elites, right? Idaho Republicans also passed a new bill banning the use of student IDs to vote after young voters saw a massive 66% surge in registration in the last 4 years. But don't worry, gun licenses will still be allowed. And Florida Republicans are moving to pass a bill to allow doctors and insurance companies to deny care to LGBT people, minorities, and women if they feel their existence violates their moral beliefs. They're calling this conscience-based objections because Republicans are strict constitutionalists, except when they get to that very First Amendment, the Establishment Clause, that creates a separation of church and state. That one is more of a mere suggestion. And look, I could go on and on. It quite literally doesn't end. But contrast that with what Democrats do when they gain full control of government. Here are Michigan Democrats moving to pass universal background checks, codify LGBT rights, enact the right to join a union, repeal a 1931 abortion ban, and zooming through bullshit Republican amendments designed to derail these popular policies.
There are further amendments. The clerk will read.
Representative Alexander offers one amendment identified as amendment number 4.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is not adopted. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Martin offers 2 amendments identified as amendment number 5.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is not adopted.
That is what a real freedom agenda looks like. And as Fox's own poll shows, these things Michigan Democrats are passing are vastly more popular than Republicans' book bans and anti-choice agenda. So I don't want to hear a single Republican ever say that they are the party of freedom ever again. Republicans have shown nothing but disdain for actual American values in their desperation to force their Christo-fascist orthodoxy onto everyone else. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And while they may brand themselves one way, their actions speak volumes. Before you go, I need your help. I'm right on the cusp of hitting 2 million subscribers, so please help me grow this channel so the progressive media ecosystem grows by hitting the subscribe button right here on the screen. I also started a Spanish channel so we can finally start regaining some of that lost ground among Spanish speakers, so if you want to help support those efforts, you can hit that subscribe button. And finally, if you listen to podcasts and you want to support mine, you'll find a link to that on the screen as well. Thanks so much for watching.